my Chukumbaca, my, how can I say, the great-great-grandmother was born in the village of Markovac, Nashitsk, near to Nashitse, located in Osiek-Baranha County. And they arrived in Brazil in 1896. They arrived in Brazil as a Austrian-Hungarian family, because in that time, Croatia was not named like that. They were under the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and they went to the countryside of São Paulo state, as the majority of the Croatians. Her name was Ana Marco, and she got married with a lawyer here in Brazil, a very known lawyer. So she could have a good life, a good style of life. And later, when the lawyer was dead, she got married with a Spanish man here in Brazil, and he was not so good for her, and she lost everything, and my family got in a bad shape. In this time, in 1997, hundreds of Croatians came to Brazil. It was a time that they were experiencing political and economical problems there, and they went in a lot of ships to Brazil. I have some of these families' surnames, because here in Brazil, I work as a genealogist, so I can help today these descendants to discover their roots. Not so tight, because as they arrived a long time ago, it's very difficult to keep the roots, to keep the culture, for some reasons. Only to explain, Brazil is 50 times bigger than Croatia. So it's a huge place, as United States, for example, or Canada. So when they arrived here, they couldn't get together. So some families stayed in the countryside, 100, 200 kilometers of distance from other Croatian families. So this is not easy to keep the culture. And usually, this Croatian, they arrived in a small number. Around 50,000 Croatians arrived in Brazil between 1890 and 1940, for example. So it's a small number. If we consider this number, comparing to Italian, for example, we had 1.5 million Italians in Brazil. We have, for example, 1,300,000 Portuguese. We got 200,000 Japanese in Brazil. Other problems, they had to adapt to Brazil and Portuguese languages quickly to survive. So they lost their language. They couldn't, how can I say, pass through the language to their children. And here in Brazil, we had some, how can I say, right, left governments. So they prohibited people to speak other language than Portuguese. It was a nationalist government. So this is other factor that affected the families very strongly. And these Croatian families here in Brazil, they used to get married with Portuguese, Italian, German, and other families. So as women here in Brazil lost their surnames and, how can I say, they had to adapt their culture to the husband culture, we lost a lot of culture here in Brazil. The families that arrived in Brazil that is the first or second generation, some of them can speak Croatian. They are more connected with the Croatian culture, but the oldest families like me, we don't get so much the culture. Around 1920, 1930, here in Brazil, we received a lot of families from Dalmatia, especially from Brač, Korčula, and they founded a cultural association here in Brazil. It's SADA, is their name. And we received at once 300 families from Brač and Korčula between this period. Yeah, and even more. Actually, we received 23,000 Dalmatian immigrants during this period, and they founded this association. So in that association, we can see the culture more alive than the other association that we have here in Brazil. We have two associations, cultural associations. Here we see the gathering. So during the year, we have some lunch or national day events and this kind of connection. But it's a small group of people. So we gather like 100 people at most, more or less. We see that the interest is increasing because people, they want to get the citizenship, they want to work in Croatia. They see the difference between Brazil's security and Croatia's security and other, even though we know some problems in Croatia, but it's much better to get in Croatia than some places here in Brazil. Me and my family, we had a connection with Ana Marco, our Croatian immigrant, because she was an example of a woman, and she was very kind. She's remembered for everyone here in my family. So this is the first step to want to know more about Croatia. Actually, I discovered that she was Croatian in 2015 because she went here in Brazil as Austrian, but because of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. When I saw her photo, I have photos from 1912, very, very old photos from her. Something was telling me that she was not Austrian. So when I got deeper in this investigation, I found in the ship list when they arrived in Brazil that was written Austrian, Slavonia, and Urpolje. That is a small city in Croatia. In my case, it was like that. If you want me to talk about other families, depends a lot. A lot of them, they don't know where their family came from because they arrived as Yugoslavian or Hungarian, German, Italian. Sometimes they found some city name or a dish that they see that is not Italian or German. And they come to us in the association, the Croatian Association in Brazil, asking for help. That's why we have now a group called Croatian Genealogy, and we help people for free to discover their roots. I believe that the language and the culture compose what we are. So when I see at my appearance, our way to speak and to say and the things that we like to do, we want to discover more about our identity. So now that I have this knowledge about my background, I see a lot of Croatian things that we have in our family and we didn't know. From 2015 to now, I can see that me and my family, we are even more each day knowing more about Croatian and adapting back some dishes or music. So, but little by little, it's not so easy to change like that. Yes, we have a lot of challenge when searching Croatian roots here in Brazil. First of all, as I said before, we have the challenge to discover if the immigrant was really Croatian. The other challenge is books. So you can imagine that we don't have books about Croatian history, Croatian geography, literature, or whatever in Portuguese. I would like to thank the Hrvatsko rodoslovno društvo that helps me a lot with some material, books, or guidance. Because if you don't understand the Croatian history, it's very difficult to understand more about dates and names. So genealogy is more than that. In Croatia, we can talk to the Croatian Archive, National Archive. They do an excellent work. They give us guidance. Notary registers is a little bit difficult because they don't send, for example, a birth certificate to Brazil. So people need to ask to the embassy. I would like to thank all the Croatian authorities. They are helping a lot. And they are making a huge difference for us and for families here in Brazil. But sometimes it's very difficult to find the registry of birth or marriage. For example, there is a village called Velimirovac that all evangelical books of birth, marriage, death, they are not in Croatia. Because during the Second World War, they got all the books and they went to Stuttgart in Germany. So a lot of families in the world, Brazil, Mexico, USA, Canada, Italy, Austria, Australia, and France, these descendants cannot get the citizenship because their grandfather, grandmother was born in 1920, 1940, and that was a terrible situation. So after one investigation, thanks God, I could find these books in German. So even Croatia didn't know where the books were. And now I am trying to make other descendants around the world to know about this discovery. Here in my family, we have a small safe pig to put some coins. My family always was told that came from Croatian, is made of oak, is a kind of wood, very beautiful. And a blanket, a very traditional folklorical blanket. For us, it's a small thing. It's a photo, it's a safe pig, but we see that like a connection to Croatia. And some families have documents from 1890, 1901, 1910, or the passport from that they use it to immigrate to Brazil. So my family doesn't have too much, but other families, they have treasures. Here in Brazil, we have two Croatian associations. One is called SADA, the other one is called Croatia Sacra Paulistana. The first one was founded by people from Dalmatia, from Korčula and Brač Island. And they arrived here in the beginning of the 20th century. And the other association, Croatia Sacra, was founded in 1950. And the immigrants were from all Croatia. Only Sada is more, how can I say, we find people from Dalmatia. And even here in Brazil, they founded a neighbor. So when they could gather here in São Paulo in a neighborhood called Belenzinho. So in Belenzinho, you can find a lot of families from Blato, Córtula. So it's very interesting. And they keep the culture. Internet is helping us to get connected and exchange information. Very important. But it's recent. We can say about 10 years, 15 years back. So that's our challenge here.